Welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. This is Chrissy Raywalk, Director of Intercollegiate Athletics at the University of Delaware. One of the things that I appreciate and enjoy most about leadership is that it is a journey, not a destination. It involves lots of different twists and turns, and you need many different types of people to go along with you on your journey in order for it to be successful. So today I invite you to start your leadership journey with this podcast. Enjoy.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at 1Q Leadership. Our guest today is Mike Castle. Mike is the Assistant Athletics Director for Ticket Sales and Operations at Georgia Tech. Greetings, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here and share my thoughts with you and the community.
And Mike, you have almost 20 years of experience in ticket sales in sports. You spent some time working in minor league baseball in tickets before moving over to college athletics over at Old Dominion. And then, of course, 3 or 4 years ago, moved over to Georgia Tech. So you have some extensive experience when you talk about fan engagement, when you talk about selling tickets and people buying in to what athletics and sports is. And that's kind of the reason why I have you on. I heard you say on a webinar, I was listening to a webinar, and I heard you say something to the effect of that there is a disconnect between the values that leaders in college athletics use to guide themselves and the expectations of fans who are guided by their value of the entertainment of college athletics. I don't know if I said that right. Can you expound on that? I thought it was pretty profound in what you were talking about there.
Well, yeah, I did say something similar to that. I think we all know the important role athletics plays in our society, and perhaps now it's even more evident with the unprecedented time where live sporting events have been halted pretty much all around the globe. And we know how much people watch sports and they enjoy sports for a variety of reasons. But it's important for us to keep in mind that there are very key differentiators between college athletics and professional athletics. And I believe at the core of what we do, the fact that our athletes are students at the school they represent is perhaps the most important differentiator at all. And look, as administrators in college athletics, we stand to see the most success if our supporters believe in our core values and our mission, which involves the educational piece and building up student athletes. And I believe a major disconnect at the moment is the amount of fans who view collegiate sports only from the entertainment standpoint. And that's an important piece of what we do. But we stand a lot to gain if we can widen that support beyond just the wins and losses on the field.
Yeah, that's important. And then you speak from experience, right? Working in professional baseball and now working in college athletics, you can talk about the entertainment value of a professional sports event and what's behind it as compared to the entertainment value of a collegiate sports event and what it takes behind it for the athletes and student athletes to be who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like I mentioned, the challenge and where this disconnect is as administrators in collegiate sports, we do have to get the fans to, for lack of a better word, buy into our mission. And there's millions of people who tune into college athletics just for the entertainment value. And please don't misunderstand me when I say that is extremely important. You can't, and I don't believe you should ever separate sports from entertainment. That's the reason we play is people want to see your team get out on the field and win. And we all want to win. We all want to feel that winning camaraderie with our fans. But we also want to win and feel that when we're developing our student athletes who go into the world, nobody enters a competition to lose, and nobody wants to go out into life and not be prepared to win in that next level of whatever it is beyond sports. So we want to celebrate the wins in the field, in the court, the pool, and in life. And the competition and the winning, our schools, representing our schools with pride is core to our mission. But winning and putting together the best sports team is not what makes us special or different from the pros. So imagine a world in collegiate athletics where everyone cheered on the teams and supported the teams on the field and the court, but also celebrated the victories in the classroom just as much. And that's where I feel, in my opinion, that we would stand to grow as an industry the most if we can tie those two together more so than they seem to be at the current moment.
I imagine if you tie them together, is there a way to ensure, or is there a way to tell if fans would value both, right? One as important as the other, the development and growth of student athletes as important as they value the competition aspect. Is there a way to, I wonder if there's a way to tell.
I don't know if there's a way to tell. And I also don't think it's realistic to think that every person who supports our schools and our teams is going to suddenly have this great awakening that, the academics is the most important thing to them as well. I think my point is more just that the staying true to our mission and the core of our mission is more helpful and advantageous to our industry in terms of separating us from the professional model. And I hate to see anybody get wrapped up in the temptations to move that more towards the other direction where we're losing sight of our focus.
Yeah, and you hear a lot of talk about that out there in the world, right? Your experience, you've been in college athletics for almost 10 years now. I imagine you've probably seen examples of schools, whether they're at Georgia Tech or anywhere, some of your colleagues in the industry that do a good job of bridging the gap, right, between understanding the values inside the department and making sure the fans outside of the department understand the values that the department is led by.
I do, and I think the ones that I see that are doing it the best are moving from a transactional approach to a storytelling approach. And what I mean by that is, at Georgia Tech, my job is to increase revenue. I want to make sure tickets are priced correctly. I want to make sure we've determined the appropriate per seat giving level. We tell customers that if they donate, they get points, which will increase their standing for seat locations at bowl games, et cetera. Those things right there are very transactional. It's important to remember to also tell the story of where that per seat gift is going. We don't always do the best job promoting the value student athletes receive during their time as a student athlete. Many of our student athletes are introduced to a world they never would have seen if they weren't involved in college sports. We need to start being more intentional in telling the story of what intercollegiate athletics means and how it's changing the lives of student athletes. And then there is a bond that can connect that student athlete with that fan who's watching them and appreciating their skill and watching them excel in their sport. But now there's a bond they didn't have before, and that's a bond you might not have had with a professional athlete. And that's, again, what differentiates collegiate sports from professional sports. And so we need to share the success of our current student athletes, our past student athletes, and those who go on to find success beyond sports because of the experience they had as a student athlete, and remind people that not all student athletes are going to become professional athletes. There was that ad, and I don't know if it's still out there, or if I remember from a couple of years ago, where the NCAA had the saying that there's 400,000 student athletes and just about all of them go pro in something other than sports. That really hit home with me when that was on television. And again, the goal here wouldn't be to alienate the people who are satisfied and happy just paying for the entertainment, because they're very important and that's a critical part of what we do, but rather to grow the base of fans who want to invest in the bigger picture and the greater goals, and to engage our supporters in a way that connects them beyond just the competition. That's where the long-term success of college athletics and our mission can be found.
Right. You want to make sure you tell that story. That's a good point. I always talk to a good friend of mine named Jay Hicks. He hosts the Sports Creatives podcast. And one thing he talks about all the time is making sure you tell the story of the student athletes, tell the story of the departments, tell the story of campus, because storytelling is what helps people to buy in to the event as a whole. I do wonder your experience in professional sports. I know it was a while ago, but I wonder what the internal dialogue was with regard to customers when you worked in minor league baseball.
Sure. I mean, customer service is still at the forefront, and entertainment and taking care of people is at the core of what all we do. But I think something real pertinent to what you just shared, again, going back to the difference between pro and collegiate sports, is when you're only selling a product, and you're only selling that one entertainment value, you find yourself in a time like this where we are experiencing something that most of us have never experienced in our lifetime with COVID-19. And it's the aspects of college sports that make college sports unique that are going to push us forward during this time, because this is a moment where we're not seeing a whole lot of ticket revenue come in. We're not seeing the ability to put the product on the field in terms of a game. But I've yet to hear one AD in the country come out and say, we can't wait to get back on campus to start selling those tickets and counting that money again.
Right.
Every
exactly.
AD that we hear talking is saying our focus is on the safety, care, well-being of our student athletes. That's the message, and that's the story. And if we have built up a fan base that believes in that message and believes in that mission, they're going to support us through even this time when there is no product to view and there is no game to attend. And that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, I agree. There's one thing I want to add to that. I had a recent conversation about the potential of no football in college athletics. And the guest mentioned something towards the end of the conversation that I thought was pretty profound. Let's say there's no football. Let's just think about doomsday here. If the possibility of people going without sports this whole spring, all summer, and possibly in the fall, will we lose, when you talk about sports, college athletics, professional sports, will we lose that audience, the habit of them buying into live competition and sports events? And I think the thing that you're talking about is probably the differentiator, right? They may lose, say they lose their passion for NFL sports because it's gone for a year or whatever in this crazy scenario. But the one thing that makes college athletics different is that you tell the story of the student athletes, of what they went through over the year. And so people want to buy back into them and see them be successful on the field, court, in the pool, wherever it is. I think you make a great point there, Mike.
Yeah, and when people align and associate college athletics with this mission of developing young people, suddenly their perspective changes. It changes on why certain rules are in place, why there's governing bodies over collegiate sports that say you can or can't do certain things, and there's guidelines. I'm not saying everyone's always going to be in agreement on what the rules are and what the guidelines should be, but it helps the mission of college athletics if that clear focal point comes back to our reason for being here, for developing student athletes, and we keep that in mind as the thing that separates us from collegiate sports. And the same is true what you just spoke about with during this time we're going through. That connectivity should remain strong, because even though we're not playing a game right now and there's some uncertainty, we're still telling stories, because our student athletes are still attending class virtually. They're still working out. They're still getting nutritional instruction and are doing what they're supposed to do in regards to keeping their bodies strong. So we're prepared, we're ready, and we're going to attack when it's time to. But in the meantime, our core mission is still in place, because we're here to take care of people and take care of students and student athletes and make sure that they're making every step they need to get to that ultimate goal, which is going to be that graduation and then moving on in their life beyond sports.
Well, Mike, this has been an excellent conversation. I appreciate you putting some thought into that topic and bringing it up, and I'm glad I heard you say it so we can have this conversation here on the One Question Leadership podcast. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, I appreciate the time, and I say I value a back and forth conversation more than anything. And so if there's anybody who's listening who has anything to share with me or disagrees with something I said, please reach out. I'd like to have conversations and continue with all perspectives.
That was Mike Castle. He's the Assistant Athletics Director for Ticket Sales and Operations at Georgia Tech. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.